Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Welcome. This is not the annual Vyas Puja event. Thank you for taking the time to travel to the mid-season Disciples meeting, which we started last year and which we wish to continue. We had such a good time at the Vyas Puja event a couple of years ago that we decided it wasn't enough to meet only once a year. Hence, this convenient summertime meeting when there's no threat of snow or ice, and we have this pleasant venue, the FW Hall. The purpose of the meeting is to nurture loving relationships. I will suggest ways this can be done outside of the 2 meetings a year. I desire strong bonds with you, and I hope you desire strong bonds with me. In 1966, Prabhupada once said, the spiritual master accepts disciples so he can enjoy with them in chanting and dancing and honoring prasadam and reading scriptures. Also in the 1960s, a man in Los Angeles challenged Prabhupada, "What do your disciples do for recreation?" Prabhupada answered, "We are chanting, we are dancing, we are honoring prasadam, we are reading the scriptures. You name one thing that is not recreation." Of course, sometimes a disciple has to go before the spiritual master with obstacles. But this is part of the loving, compassionate relationship. There should be nothing distant or merely official or dry in their dealings. I want our relationship to be like that, intimate, vital, loving, and trusting. I've told you something that Prabhupada said to me early in our relationship, before I was even initiated, that had a strong impact on me. He said, "If you love me, then I'll love you." I would like to tell you the circumstances in which he said that. It was the day after Janmashtami, 1966. On Janmashtami evening, the first initiation in ISKCON was held, and I skipped it. I heard the boys talking about initiation, and they were taking it so casually. One would say, "Are you going to get initiated?" The other would say, "I don't know, maybe. What's it all about anyway?" The other would say, "I don't know. Something about you accept Swamiji as your spiritual master. It sounds far out." But I thought it was a very heavy commitment to surrender your life to the spiritual master. I had just come out of the Navy, where for 2 years all of my freedoms were taken away. And now I was enjoying my new freedom in the Lower East Side. So I was hesitant to surrender my life to a spiritual master. I stayed all day in the temple on Janmashtami, but in the evening when the initiation was held, I went out the door and went home to my apartment. There I typed Swamiji's manuscripts of Srimad Bhagavatam. I typed all night, and in the morning I brought the manuscripts to him. I found him alone in his apartment. He said, "Oh, Steve, you missed the initiation yesterday." I said, "I know. I stayed home and typed for you." He said, "That's all right. Come on in." So I went in, and I sat down next to him at his desk, which was a metal trunk. I showed him the pages of the manuscript, and he looked at each page and saw there were no mistakes. He said, "Very good job." Then he reached over and gave me a handful of grapes. I thought, gee, I stayed up all night typing and all I get is a handful of grapes. Just then the phone rang. This was before Prabhupada got disgusted with the phone and had it taken it out. He said, "Hello, Swami here." And he talked for a few minutes about a wedding. Then he hung up and turned to me and said, "Tomorrow night I'm holding a marriage ceremony for 2 of my disciples, and I invite you to come." I was thrilled to be personally invited, and I said I would come. I craved personal attention from the Swami. I had received it once before on a Sunday morning. He had just finished his morning lecture, and I was sitting on the curb of 2nd Avenue thinking of what I would do that day. He was still in his seat, and he asked the boy to come out and bring me in. I went up to him and he said, "I'm holding a Sunday feast today. Do you have any work? Can you come?" He knew I was a worker and had a job. So I said I could come, and I was thrilled with the personal invitation. I knew they had Sunday feasts, but I thought I was too much of not enough of an insider to attend them. So I craved his personal attention. Back in the room, the day after Janmashtami, he accepted my typed manuscripts, and then he gave me more to do. He went to a closet and took out a stack of manuscripts wrapped in a saffron cloth and gave them to me. And as I was about to leave his room, he said to me, "Taking this typing and doing it is not mechanical. If you love me, then I'll love you." At that time, those words had a very strong emotional impact on me. They shattered all my hesitations about surrendering to him. silly notions like the fact that he was an old man and he was an Indian, and my desire for independence. He was pointing out to me that love was a two-way street. I wanted him to love me, but he was saying I had to love him too. But when he said, if you love me, then I'll love you, it broke all my barriers to surrender. And I left his room very blissful and eager to be initiated. Speaking of love, Satsvarupa Goswami has described 6 exchanges of love in the Upadeshamrita, Nectar of Instruction. He groups them into pairs. The first 2 are to reveal your mind and to receive confidential instructions. I want all of you to do this among God brothers and God sisters and other devotees. You can't do it with everyone, but everyone will have some like-minded friends who they can trust and look up to. I'm very fond of writing, so you might want to write down when you're inspired the revealings of your mind, and then look at it a couple of days later and see if it's what you wanted to say. If not, revise it and then read it to your friend. And be willing to take guidance from him or her. I want you to do this with me too. Write me letters and tell me what's on your mind so you can help me, so I can help you. Communications with me are strictly confidential. I'll tell you how it operates. Most of the letters I receive are emails. My disciple Baladev produces them in hard copy, and he has strict orders to deliver them to me without reading them. He's not interested in them anyway. I read the letters and I answer them on a dictaphone. The dictaphone is sent to a devotee named Jai Govinda, who lives in Italy. You don't know him and he doesn't know any of you. So it's anonymous. He makes a few mistakes because English is not his first language, but he's pretty good. So he types the letter and he has the emails and he sends them to you. So it's all strictly confidential. It is an important loving exchange to reveal your mind and to receive confidential instructions. Rupa Goswami also says, a devotee offers prasadam to another devotee and accepts prasadam from a devotee. In Chaitanya Lila, there was a devotee named Kalidas who used to accept the remnants of prasadam from all the Vaishnavas in Bengal. He would accept from the plates of brahmanas and even low caste devotees. He went to a devotee named Jadu Thakur, who was a great devotee but of a lower caste, and he brought him some mangoes. Jadu Thakur accepted the mangoes and said, "How can I serve you?" Kalidas said, "Please put your feet on my head and let me have your foot dust." Thakur Jadu immediately objected and he said, "I can't do that. I'm from a lower caste. I would never put my feet on your head." Kalidas was a little frustrated, but he was undaunted. He left Jadu Thakur with the mangoes and he went off to a distant place to spy on him. At that distant place, he saw on the ground Jadu Thakur's footprints all over the place. So first he rolled in the footprints and smeared the dust over his body. Then he watched. He saw Jadu Thakur take the mangoes and eat them, and then he gave them to his wife as remnants. She ate the remnants, and then she threw the mangoes in the refuse pit. At that point, Kalidas came out of hiding, and he went to the refuse pit, took the remainder of the mangoes, and licked them clean. He not only took the prasadam of all the devotees in Bengal, but he also took their foot dust and the water that washed their feet. Krishnadas Kaviraj says these three activities, taking the remnants of devotees' food, taking their foot dust, and taking the water that washes their feet, are very powerful activities in devotional service. One time Kalidas went to Jagannath's Puri to get the audience of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya had a practice of taking darshan of the Jagannath deity in the temple from a distant place in the rear of the temple beside the Garuda Stamba. In order to approach the Stamba, he had to climb a long flight of stairs. At the bottom of the stairs was a pit, and he would wash his feet in that pit before climbing the stairs to the temple. He had a strict rule that no one should take the water from his feet. Sometimes some intimate devotees would play tricks and take a little water, but he maintained a strict rule. So when Kalidas came to Jagannath Puri, he went up to Lord Chaitanya in the pit, and when Govinda poured the water, he held out his hands and he drank to his full satisfaction, and Lord Chaitanya allowed him. Then Govinda poured a second time, and Kalidas took 2 palmfuls to his full satisfaction. Govinda poured a third time, and Kalidas drank 2 palmfuls to his full satisfaction. Then Lord Chaitanya said to him, "That's enough, Kalidas. I've fulfilled your desires as much as possible." Lord Chaitanya was omniscient, so he knew the activities of Kalidas in Bengal, taking the remnants of food from every Vaishnava, and he wanted to reward him. Later that day, he signaled to Govinda to give the remnants of his prasadam to Kalidas. exchanging prasadam is very much emphasized in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. There was a devotee named Raghava Pandit who used to come every year from Navadvip bringing bags of prasadam that his wife Damayanti had prepared. She prepared them in balls, savories and sweets, and put them in bags. They were so made, so carefully, that they would last a long time, and Govinda would serve them to Lord Chaitanya throughout the year. One year, many devotees offered separate preparations to the Lord. Great devotees like Advaitacharya, Lord Nityananda, Gadadhar offered their preparations to Govinda. But Lord Chaitanya didn't take them. He said, "I'll take it later, put it in the corner of the room." The devotees came to Govinda and said, "Did the Lord eat my prasadam? Did he like it?" And Govinda was frustrated and stressed. He even lied to some of the devotees, and he avoided them. But he became more and more stressed as the devotees brought offerings and asked him whether the Lord had taken them. Finally, he couldn't bear it anymore, and he went to Lord Chaitanya almost in tears and said, "How long is this going to go on? When are you going to eat the offerings of the prasadam that the devotees are making? They're asking me every day, have you taken them? And I'm lying to them and playing tricks." Lord Chaitanya said to him, "Why are you disturbed, you foolish Adivas?" The word Adivas means old student. Govinda had been with Lord Chaitanya for a long time, whereas other devotees came and went. So he said, "You foolish Adivas, bring the prasadam over here, I'll show you I can eat it." And Govinda brought it over. It occupied a whole corner of the room. He said, "Here is the prasadam offered by Advaitacharya." The Lord said, "Very good," and he ate it. He said, "Here is the prasadam offered by Lord Nityananda." Lord Chaitanya took that. He said, "Here is prasadam offered by Gadadhar Pandit." The Lord took that. And he took dozens and dozens and dozens of prasadam offerings, because all the devotees from Navadvip had made their offerings. At that time, at that sitting, Lord Chaitanya ate enough prasadam that could satisfy 100 men. When he had finished this miraculous eating performance, he asked Govinda, "Is there anything else?" And Govinda said, "Only Raghava's bags." Lord Chaitanya said, "I will look at them later today." And that night, Lord Chaitanya sampled all the balls of Raghava Pandit's wife, and he enjoyed them and saved them, and Govinda gave them out during the year. As the devotees gave prasadam to Lord Chaitanya, he offered them prasadam. He used to arrange with the managers of the temple to distribute huge quantities of Jagannath's own prasadam to his devotees. Take them, and we here prepare offerings for you, and you take them. And in your private lives, you should invite devotees to your home and give them prasadam and accept prasadam from them. The Ramakrishna mission calls the Gaudiya Vaishnavas a kitchen religion because we emphasize so much distribution of prasadam, but we call them a chicken mission because they eat anything. The last two items of loving exchange described by Rupa Goswami are offering of gifts and charity, and accepting gifts and charity. Lord Chaitanya made a gift of a Govardhan Shila that was very dear to him, to Raghunath Das Goswami. The Lord used to worship this Shila for years, putting it on his heart and on his head, and he would shed tears. But he was so pleased with Raghunath's renunciation and his reduction of his eating that he made a gift of the Govardhan Shila to him. And he also gave him a garland of gunja berries. He made a similar offering of worshipable items to Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. When Raghunath Bhatta Goswami's parents died, and he came to join Lord Chaitanya to become one of the 6 Goswamis, the Lord gave him a plank that he sat on, 2 undergarments, and a chadar, and Raghunath Bhatta worshipped them in ecstasy as prasadam of Mahaprabhu. The Lord also gave King Prataparudra his outer garment. He refused to meet with the king at first, but he offered him his prasadam in the form of clothing. And King Prataparudra accepted it as worshipable as Lord Chaitanya himself. In the early years of my serving as an initiating guru in ISKCON, there was great enthusiasm for receiving my clothing that had been used. I would give it out personally, and sometimes at big festivals I would throw it out. I would throw out a hoodie sweatshirt, and a man would grab one end of it, and a woman would grab another end of it, and they would pull on it. And then another woman would yell at the man, "Give it to her!" With the minimization of guru worship in ISKCON, the giving out of clothing remnants has disappeared. Baladev can't even give out clothing now. He'll offer a sweater to a disciple and he'll say, "Well, you can give that to someone else." It's gotten to the point where now we offer my used clothing to the Salvation Army. There's one devotee who maintained that enthusiasm for accepting remnants up until the end, and I'll talk about her this afternoon. But I kind of missed that early spirit. There's a TV show called Curb Your Enthusiasm, and it seems the enthusiasm has been curbed for taking Guru's remnants. The spirit of accepting Guru's remnants was very high during Prabhupada's presence. When Prabhupada's servant would come downstairs with his plate after he had offered it, he would be mobbed by the devotees with no hesitation. They would wrestle and grab at the plate. They would prefer things like chewed oranges and anything that had been in Prabhupada's mouth. And they would be very ecstatic if they got offered a ring or a tooth or something that Prabhupada had used intimately. In his purport to Rupa Goswami's exchanging of gifts, Prabhupada writes that the best gift we can give is the Hare Krishna mantra. He said about his own leading of chanting that I chant and you hear, and then you chant and I hear. So this giving out of the Hare Krishna mantra to others is the best gift. I have told you many times the best way that we can exchange in love is if you read my writings. Prabhupada has said, if you want to know me, read my books. Recently I spoke on Skype with my two Russian disciples, Ishana Dasi and her husband Arjuna. They're doing tremendous service for me, translating and producing and distributing my books. They've produced dozens of books and distributed thousands of them at festivals. So I spoke to them on Skype, and they were telling me about the recent publication of the third book in the series, My Letters from Srila Prabhupada, which has the individual title, I Am Never Displeased with Any Member. That's actually the best book in the series. So Arjuna was telling me with enthusiasm and emotion his impressions of the book. And he said the persona in that book comes right out and had a profound effect on me. That was the word he used through the translator, persona. There's a personal presence in my books, and if you can feel it, then I am with you. The American poet Walt Whitman said about his book, Leaves of Grass, He who reads this book touches a man. I have the same feelings when I read Radhanath Swami's books. A person is there in the books. And now I am giving you so much every day. At 2:30 in the morning, after I finish my japa, I begin writing my website. It has different departments, writings from the acharyas, japa quote, japa poem, japa report, a reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, a personal stanza, and it ends with a poem to my deities, Radha Govinda. This is accompanied with illustrations chosen by the typists, Guru Das and Nandarani. It's posted on Facebook and my own website. We have business cards which we're going to give out, which have all the websites on them. So you should all read my website every day. It only takes 10 or 15 minutes. In this year of the 50th anniversary of Prabhupada's coming to America, I was invited to write a Prabhupada meditation every day. These are posted on 2 sites, ISKCON News.org Meditations and Dandabats.com. I tried to write what Prabhupada was doing 50 years ago on the date. When I don't know exactly what he was doing, I write something about 1966. Or if I don't know, I write what I call a timeless meditation about his qualities. So this has a very wide readership around the world. And you, as my disciples, should read it too. In addition, there are my books. I began publishing in 1977, and I've now published over 200 books. Most of you have private collections, and you can add to them today. Shama Goparupa has brought books here. Ishvara Govinda has posted my books in e-book format on the website SDGlegacy.com. He has posted about 130 books. And you can go there if you have a Kindle or other e-book apparatus and load them down for free. You should consider getting one of these and collecting all of my books in this way. It's a very convenient way to read my books for the modern generation of readers. My books are unique in their honesty and confessional expression, and they're shastric and in tune with Prabhupada's books. They are a spiritual tool for my disciples for intimate association with me. One reader said, "Your books are like mirrors. When we read them, we see ourselves, and it's a little unnerving, but it's purifying for you." My subject matter is love. I'm now going to read something that supersedes everything I've said so far about love being exchanges between devotees and loving exchanges between the guru and the disciple. This is the ultimate conclusion. It's from the preface of the Nectar of Devotion by Prabhupada. It's not too long. The basic principle of the living condition is that we have a general propensity to love someone. No one can live without loving someone else. The propensity is present in every living being. Even an animal like a tiger has this loving propensity, at least in a dormant stage, and it is certainly present in the human beings. The missing point, however, is where to repose our love so that everyone can be happy. At the present moment, the human society teaches one to love his country or family or his personal self, but there is no information where to repose the living propensity so that everyone can be happy. That missing point is Krishna, and the Nectar of Devotion teaches us how to stimulate our original love for Krishna and how to be situated in that position where we can enjoy our blissful life. In the primary stage, a child loves his parents and his brothers and sisters, and as he daily grows up, he begins to love his family, society, community, country, nation, or even the whole human society. But the loving propensity is not satisfied even by loving all human society. That loving propensity remains imperfectly fulfilled until we know who is the Supreme Beloved. Our love can never be fully satisfied, only when it is reposed in Krishna. This theme is the sum and substance of the Nectar of Devotion, which teaches us how to love Krishna in 5 different transcendental mellows. Our loving propensity expands just as a vibration of light or air expands, but we do not know where it ends. Nectar of Devotion is the science of loving every one of the living entities perfectly by the easy method of loving Krishna. We have failed to create peace and harmony in the human society, even by such great attempts as the United Nations, because we do not know the right method. The method is very simple, but one has to understand it with a cool head. The Nectar of Devotion teaches all men how to perform this simple and natural method of loving Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If we learn how to love Krishna, then it is very easy to immediately and simultaneously love every living being. So I said this supersedes everything I've said so far, but it doesn't contradict it. Loving Krishna and loving exchanges among the devotees of Krishna and loving exchanges between the guru and the disciple are all the same. It's even said that loving Krishna directly is not as pleasing to Krishna as loving his devotee. So they're both the same. Loving Krishna and loving Krishna's devotee.